All right, grasshoppers. It's Thursday at 2:00, and there's nobody else here. It's just me. Um, Sad news. I think Gresh is busy. He had to take his daughter up to school. And sad news from Larry Melnick. And I know we joke around about dogs, but anybody that saw the earlier show I did today, Larry, his beloved dog Rory, I believe that's a dog, got in a fight. We got attacked by another dog, their neighbor, and they had to put down Rory. So I know we've talked about this before. Mel puts on that act to being a big, hard, tough guy and everything like that, and he is, but he's got a big heart too. So that dog was pretty important to him and the family, so he will be with us today. Ira, I don't know what to say about you. I thought you'd be happy that you just be like a one-on-one kind of thing, but apparently that's not the case. So I just had a yes, thank you, Doug. It's very nice of you. Anybody's a dog person. And again, I know we joke around about the dog, like Pepper and everything. I actually I love dogs. I've always had a dog. I had a three-legged dog growing up. That dog got in a fight with a German Shepherd and lost its leg. So lived for like another 70 years with the three legs. So, so I don't know if anybody's seen. There's a guy out there. He's become kind of famous. He's got a pet squirrel, and he's been all over. There's an article in USA Today about him. The Peanut is the squirrel's name. I actually coached him for Greenwich Blues many years. And I just had a conversation with a fantastic guy. He's doing all kinds of stuff now. He just got back from Italy and Europe. They flew him over there. He's doing well. He made like about $150,000 in his first month on OnlyFans. So I'd like to get people's opinion about this OnlyFans too. Like some people say, well, it's just all people nudity and everything. Other people say it's a great place to whatever business you want to promote. It's a great place to do it. So just be interested to see what people think about that. Okay, just Billy, I know you're maybe late getting here. Gresh, I think, is taking his daughter to school. She goes to Syracuse, and Larry lost his dog yesterday. He got attacked by a neighbor's dog, and they had to put Rory down. So he was, again, I know we joke around about Mel being grouchy and all that kinds of stuff, but he's a tremendous family guy, great mother, great father, and a great husband. So, and he certainly loved that dog. So he sent me an email last night that it just happened. So, yeah, we're going to start, it's summertime, so it's harder to line people up, people off on vacation and stuff. So once the hockey season gets going, we'll start getting more like we've talked in the past, the Mike Rogers and Pierre LaRouche and everything. Let me see here. Susan, this is funny. Would you drink a beer through a hot dog like the guy did? So I didn't see this, but Boomer Esiason was talking about it on his show. So I guess it's obviously a cooked hot dog. He had something, I don't know what he did. He poked a hole all the way through the hot dog and drank his beer like a straw. He used the hot dog. But you know what the thing is, like, who would think of that? Like, who would say, like, it must have been something that somebody poked a hole in the hot dog and then said, okay, I'll use that as a straw after a few adult beverages himself. But what about athletes and other sports? Yeah, definitely. When we started this show, just into the pandemic, so over 2 years ago, I think people were there. It was we were just bored one day. I called up Gresh, Dukes, and Dave Maloney, and we said, let's do the show. And we really didn't have a plan for it or anything. We just were going through the timeline of their careers and Studio 54 and everything. And it was the fall. It was a lot. We got I think like 3,000 hits on that show, 3,000 viewers. So we're like, wow. So we actually we had Boomer Esiason on the next show. I think partly with Boomer, he's on so much, everybody knows his story and hears him all the time. We didn't get many viewers. We got like 800 viewers. Same thing with Kenny Albert. I had him on, both fantastic guys, fantastic speakers. I had a lot of fun with them, but I think it just appeared that people want something different. When we had Nikki Fatillo on, we had like 10,000 views on it. So we kind of get to realize that it was, and maybe that changes too, but it was more of a like Ranger fans and hockey fans and everything. So Jack is starting trouble. Oh, how about Carol Ald as a guest? I don't know if we're going to. Carol's a wonderful person, but I don't think that's going to go over well with our buddy Ronnie. That's a good one. This is cool. I would like an interview with Tony Hawk. That would be awesome. He's legend. That's cool. Yeah, we can do that stuff like that. That's a good idea. Maybe go reach outside. So I mentioned before about Have anybody seen this guy that has a pet squirrel? He's got kind of famous. There's an article in USA Today, and I coached him maker. So I just had a conversation with him. Maybe do a show with him next week to listen to his story. He's a fantastic young man. He's like 31 years old now. He's in great shape, kept himself in great shape. And he's had a pet squirrel for like 3 months now, or 3 years now. And I think Jimmy Fallon just called him to be on his show and everything. So we're going to try to get him on next week too. Susan Brooks, we should get Susan Brooks on there. There's an idea. Yeah. I don't know if we can ask Henrik if he wants to come on, Joseph. I don't know if he will. We've had Peter Stemkowski. Oh, yes, that's right. He was great. Yes. John McEnroe would be good. Yeah. Kevin Smith. Interview with the Devils. Kevin Smith would be a great interview, although a Devils fan. Huh. Who's Kevin Smith? Should I know Kevin Smith? Huh. Ken Linsman. So we actually everybody hated him, right? And he knew it. That's the way he played. That's by design for him. We played in the alumni game, Bruins against the Rangers, 4 years ago, I guess it was. And so I got to know him a little bit, hanging out. We had the dinner the night before, alumni games, you're joking around, having fun. And it's terrible because the game had a game in Boston on the Saturday night, and then a game in Madison Square Garden on Sunday afternoon. And at the game in the Garden on Sunday afternoon, he fell and hurt his knee. Had to leave the game. And all the guys were like, it was more of having fun with him, but it was more like, well, it couldn't happen to a better guy, right? Everybody hated him so much. Again, he's a fantastic guy, like most of the players. Even with the nasty guys on the ice are usually pretty good guys. Get rid of this. The opera singer from the playoffs, Jay and Silent Rob. That's good. We get Dancing Larry on too, right? I think I don't know. Huh. My buddy owns Quick Stop and Atlanta Highlands Movie Theater with him. With who? He just shows out there. Steve Carlson, the Carlson brothers. So we got a list. Yeah, okay. So I'll take this list and we'll get to work on it. We'll try to nail that list during this coming season. Jim Curry on the show. Jim Curry. Oh, Jim Curry's his name's popped up here a few times, son. Who is Jim Curry? Somebody tell me who Jim Curry is. What happened to Pierre? So, like I said, it seems we're going to get Pierre. I've got his number. During the summer, a lot of these guys to take off and everything, and it's hard to. It's not their fault. They can't really give you a firm answer like, yes, I can do it Thursday at 2:00. So I'm kind of, because I'm very selfish. I like to do it by myself. So I just figure, well, I'll just do it by myself. And I know that really makes Ira happy and Billy Contradidiac. Kevin Smith. Who is Kevin Smith? I should know who that is. Kevin Weeks, is that what you're talking about? Kent Carlson, friends with him on Facebook. Kent Carlson. Is that the Kent Carlson that played with Calgary and everything? Friends with him on Facebook. He's a good player. Oof. David Portnoy. Oh. Yes, that's a good idea, Ira. Bring back the memorable. Yeah, Nicky Fatio's good. Deborah, yes. Nick's funny. Nick's got some great stories. Glad to see he's doing so well too. He's got remarried. He's very happy. Looks like she's taking fantastic. She's got him. He's always been in good shape, but she's got him all dressed nice and everything. JD was good. Yep. Be a lot of guys. A guy. I'm trying to think he's real colorful. A guy has got a great personality. Who was I thinking about? Jim and Silent Bob. Who is Jim and Silent Bob? Carlson played with Montreal. Ken Carlson. But I think he also played with Calgary when I first started. If I'm thinking of the same guy. Smith is an actor and director from Leonardo, New Jersey. Oh, Kevin Smith. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, no. Get Ira on the show. What does everybody think about that? Should we get Ira on the show? Right, but what's your... Sean Avery. Wow. Yeah, I doubt that he would come on our show. Now he needs to get divorced, so maybe he's got some time on his hands. I don't know. Jack Smith from movie Clerks. A lot of different guys. Doing a lot of movie guys. Barry Beck. Yeah, the problem with Barry is the time change. Him being over there in Hong Kong, I think he is now. Who was that right there? my brother, 1989 Hobie when it was Neil Broughton. Oh, cool. Yeah, the F-bomb record. That was funny with Phil. Well, it was funny for a while. Again, we messed up too with Phil. When he started going off on Willie Huber, that was uncalled for, especially Willie passed away. We told him that. And again, that's my fault. I should have stopped it right away. But part of the problem is I think, Phil was such a legend to us and so good to us. It was more like after the show. In fact, a couple of people made comments that, it's too bad we didn't stop that. And it made me realize, yeah, we should. I went back and looked at it again. It's unfortunate. And again, I think Phil's that older gentleman now. Maybe didn't realize how he was going to be sounding when he was saying that stuff. So, Jan Hamm would be fun. He's a blues fan. Oh, this is awful. He's John Hamm. He's the actor, right? So, I don't know how this came up in a conversation the other day, but he's very famous for his Little Johnny. Apparently, it's not too little, as I'm told. So we had a little get together. So some people started pulling out pictures, and he is quite the man. How about my son? Tell you, how about your sons? We get to know real time. Well, I have two sons, Shane and Cody. They're 31 and 29. They're very entertaining too. If the three of us got on together, hopefully they would act the way they normally act. Wouldn't try to hold back. We're pretty funny. Like the three of us get together, and it's time to carve each other pretty good. I'm very proud of my relationship with my sons. They're grown men now, and they're very funny. Let's see here. What is this? Jack's saying here. Tom, my late dad and I used to always laugh about Vadnais and his stick. He was oh yeah, oof, Vad was vicious. Like Vad taught. Like I know I've said this many times. Vad was fantastic to me. I guess he just took a liking to me, thought that I had a potential, and he really wanted to help me in my career. And it was right at the end of his career, so I was one of that. It wasn't like I was taking his actual job. I was one of the guys coming in, and he was retiring. And instead of him being bitter about it, he just was fantastic. He was helped me with so much stuff. And one of the things he showed me was, man, like especially around the front of the net, he said, "You do anything you want in front of the net, Tom." And that French accent, Tommy, that guy goes to the front of the net, you make him pay. And he did it too. And he did it right to the end of his career too. And he was older. A lot of times guys get older and they shy away from that little bit of the rough stuff, but he wasn't having any of that. I remember one time we were playing at Philly, and Paul Holmgren and him were kind of pushing and shoving and battling for the puck. And Holmgren had gone down, and Vad made it look like he'd fallen down, and he gave him like the wrestling move where he came down with the elbow on his head. And Holmgren didn't know that it was he thought it was an accident. But when we watched it, and I said to Vad later, I said, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" And he said, "Oh yeah." He saw his opportunity. How about hockey out a little bit too? Brad Park. Brad'd be good. Brad's a good. He's one of those guys. Ask one question and say goodbye an hour later, and you're done. He loves to talk hockey. Oh, nothing wrong with that. It's just that he's definitely. We joke around about him and Nikki. They get together and they talk hockey all day long. That their strategies and the whole bit. So, Susan Brooks, our buddy Susan Brooks, who was mentioned by Kevin Allen and I were talking about how Mike Emmerich mentioned her. I guess Susan had contacted Mike to do a Zoom call at that same convention, the NHL Booster Club convention. And so he had mentioned in some interview that about Susan Brooks, so she's famous now. What defenseman today reminds you of you as a player? Wow. Yeah, I would say Lindgren. Thank you. Who said that? Joseph Alberti, Lindgren. Probably, I took pride in the fact that, and I'm not trying to be humble when I say this, I really wasn't like a really talented player. I mean, Greshel, I was a good enough skater. I knew the game very well, but I had to show up every day and compete. And you see that with Lindgren. I was bigger than he was, or is, but it's blocking the shots. It's it's doing all the little things. Like the way he performed in the playoffs to me, and I think that was one of the big reasons that they were struggling against Pittsburgh there, and then he came back to play. I believe I'm correct when I say that. And it wasn't just him coming back, but the players all know when a player's hurt like that and what the injury is. And for him to come back and play, and he'd get hurt and then he'd come back on. It just, to me, that kind of stuff does so much for his team to say, listen, if he's going to suck it up like that, then we better suck it up. I was really proud. One of the most things I was most proud about was, I was a captain, assistant captain. I won player awards twice. That's given to you by the teammates. So they're recognizing that, okay, you may not be one of the star players, but you do all those other things for us. So that was one of the biggest honors I had. And I think that's, the same kind of, you look at Lindgren, that's the same kind of player he is too. So, yeah, that's a good one, Jay. We'll get both Sam Rosen and JD to talk about hockey. That'd be cool to have them on. They're good. Yeah, they're good. I don't think this is going to, I think we have a different view on life. So, so I've joked around about Kotze before. So just so everybody knows, Kotze and I lived together my rookie year in the National Hockey League. We actually went to Dave Maloney's apartment. So we're friends. It just, Kotze's just got a different way. I think part of what's happened with me is, with all this True Grit Life stuff that I've done, I've kind of gotten away from being, that former NHL player. I still obviously played in the NHL, but I'm more interested in my life now and, doing all the stuff I'm doing, getting better all the time, helping other people and everything. And I think, Kotze's just got a different way of living his life. So, yeah. How did James Patrick's team do in the playoffs? They lost in the Eastern semifinals, right, to Edmonton, I believe. Yes, and then Edmonton went on, and I can't remember who won out there. And part of the thing in that junior hockey, there's an age range anywhere from as young as 15, but usually 16 to, in some cases, 21 years old. So that's a big age range, especially when you got bulk your team is a younger team like that to go up against a more veteran team. That was the case with James's team with Winnipeg. They had a younger team. Very talented team, really worked hard and everything like that. So bulk of their guys are those 16, 17, 18-year-old guys. Bulk of Edmonton teams, I believe, was that 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. And again, that age range, physically, emotionally and everything, there's a big difference there too. So, Joseph, about Nick Fidu. Well, I know who it is. He's trying to, but I got to make fun of him. I can't just let him away. I can't let somebody away and just say it's Nick Fidu and then not say something about it. Like Feet Rogers. Feet, is that your real name? Feet Rogers? Nick Fotiu. I'm going to call him Nick and tell him that you did that. You wrote spelled his name wrong. Yeah, that kind of strikes a nerve with me too. James was good. James is fantastic. Actually, I watched one of the old shows he was on. He always surprised me. He's got a really good sense of humor. I forgot about that. Like, you really got to pay attention. He gets those little things in there. But yeah, so just so everybody knows, I know most people who watch the show understand. James was on for a while. Loved being on the show. We loved to have him on. He'd made a comment that we all thought was common knowledge. So the Winnipeg Jets, Blake Wheeler and Scheifele on their team. Pretty much everybody. Well, Paul Maurice quit partway through past season. I think it was. The coach quit. Saying he just couldn't get to the players anymore. And it just became known in the hockey world that it was largely those two players, Scheifele and Wheeler, that they just were bad in the locker room. James said that on this show. And again, we all just like, yeah, that's, James is telling what we all knew. And apparently it seemed like a lot of people in Winnipeg didn't understand that because shortly after that, we had a few other shows before this. It got on Twitter, but James had said that. And then it become like a big public thing. And the team, the coach, the Cheveldae, the general manager there, James went and talked to him, and they were upset with James that he said it. And I took it more, and I know Kevin Cheveldae off. He got in trouble in that situation in Chicago as well, where the coach abused some of the players, and they didn't do anything about it. So I lost some respect for him for that. I just felt like, okay, you knew there was a problem in the locker room. You didn't do anything about it. And now you're mad at James because now everybody knows about it. It's more, okay, they haven't been winning. And this is not saying that's the reason, but that's one of the reasons. So James was asked not to go on the show any longer. And I understood from there. And, because the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg Ice, obviously the junior team that James coaches is in the same city. They kind of work together and stuff. So if it makes it look like James is bad-mouthing the Winnipeg Jets, that hurts the relationship. Again, I don't believe it was. Most of the people I talked to didn't believe he was saying anything out of school. That everybody knew it. So, great question. Thank you, Barry. Coached the girls team this year at Senior. I loved it. Girls were fantastic. Actually, like I mentioned, I was talking to this guy. They call him the Squirrel Man, And I had coached him many years ago too when my son was playing in the Greenwich High School team, the boys team. Great guy. He's got this pet squirrel. He's famous now. Makes tons of money on OnlyFans and all this kinds of stuff. This is coaching girls team. So I won't be going back next year to coach. No, I'd forgotten. I hadn't coached in a number of years. I coached a few years ago with John Tonelli with his team. And I'd forgotten the time commitment. It's just, if you're a teacher, it's okay because you're on the same schedule as the players are. So as far as practices and everything, but to have a separate career and I was missing too much stuff from work I'm doing. So I'm coaching. And the head coach is a fantastic young woman too. That was her first year being a head coach. She'd been a player, a really good player, great skater. She's not coming back either. I don't think she realized the demands. And if you're going to coach, listen, I love coaching, and I know the parents all love their kids very much. But in youth sports, sometimes it's not every parent. It's not all the time. You do get parents, particularly if you have to discipline the players or they don't get played enough, it can become issues with the parents. And it was unexpected. I don't think she expected it was going to be the way it was. And there's a couple of incidents that really got to her, and she's got a full career herself, so she's not going to coach. And the only reason I coached her was because she lives in the same condominium complex as me, so we knew each other, or we were introduced to each other because of that. So no, I loved it, and I'll coach again somewhere down the road. I'm doing a lot more stuff with the Rangers now, like clinics and stuff, so pretty busy with that too. Let me see here. Who we got here? I understood me major deal out of it. How about famous Jackie that Larry? Oh, that'd be funny to have her on. Yeah, she's Jackie. Oh, I may have to mention that. Actually, we talked in the past about having her on. She's a great girl. Fantastic. Yeah, she's got quite a personality too. So yeah, we'll get her on. Let me see here. Beezer would be great. Beezer would be great. Give info on you. Yeah, he's involved in USA Hockey now, right? I did a show with Kevin Allen with him probably about a year ago, and. How about Bobby Flay? Yeah. So I gotta get some things happening. So maybe we'll get on a cookie show. So that'd be kind of fun. Let's give it. I should order some beaver rub. Yes. Yeah. Do a cooking show using beaver rub. There's your little granddaughter. Correct? Yes. So the show has. Oh, here we go. So the show is his peak of greatness with guests with Squirrel Man. You should look him up. Look him up on he's all over the place. Instagram. Again, Jimmy Fallon show called, so he's going to be on that. He just got paid for to go over to Italy. He's got millions of followers. I think on TikTok he's got 1.7 million followers. So yeah, he's the real deal. I was talking to him today. He really didn't know what he was doing to get started. He found the squirrel, brought it in, some videos of it, and all of a sudden he's famous. So. Impractical Jokers. Get the guys from Impractical Jokers. Yeah, okay. Impractical. I don't know if I've ever seen that show. Yeah, Jill would be great to have back on. She went through some tough times. I saw some posts she made, and I reached out to her. Some people close to her, I think one of her friends committed suicide. Her boyfriend got in a bad motorcycle accident or something too. So I thought this was the only show you guys watched. How about Buddy from Cake Boss? You can discuss the cake on the beach. Ira, I got to give you credit. You know what? You try hard, and once in a while, you do well. Once I can carry weight. Once in a while. When I have to coach junior hockey, I love coaching when. See, I really believe when you're coaching youth sports, hockey in this case. That using you can teach lessons about life while you're making them better players and teaching those stuff. Sometimes, and I think you can still do that. And I could see James Patrick being like that. Definitely, Herb Brooks was like that. A lot of coaches are, but there's much more focus on the winning, obviously, right? And sometimes when you're coaching youth sports, you can say, well, you know what, I want to win, but there's a lesson here to teach the kids, and parents pretty much understand that. So, but coach. I tell you, I coached a year, like I said, with John Tonelli, and that was a pretty high-level team. It was only 14-year-olds, but they were ranked 5 or 6 in the country. So there was a lot of kids were getting offers to go to prep schools, and the better they played, the more it helped. Some parents could afford these expensive prep schools. So there was some pressure there to win and play well. So get Pepper on. it's been quiet ever since I exploded. I was actually thinking, I was talking to my morning show I do on Thursdays now with that Rich Gabberty. We were talking about the fact that I talked to all these therapists, there's Jackie and Kathleen. And Kathleen in particular talked about how there was a woman that came to her. Her husband had a snoring problem, so she couldn't sleep. So she came to get Kathleen's help. I can't remember how Kathleen did it, but I think she put together something like a meditation tape or something like that, and to convince the woman to talk her into believing that the snoring was soothing and relaxing, and she could sleep to it. And it worked. So she sleeps now. So yeah, maybe I should do that with Pepper. Believe that barking is soothing and relaxing. Oh, did I snap the other night? Thankfully, I did not swear. There was no threatening or anything like that. It was just loud. Like I said, the dogs even stopped barking when I yelled. Oh, I shouldn't have done it. Well, part of me felt good. Don Murdoch. So those of you who don't know Don, and this is something he talks about, he drank a lot and everything when he was younger. He's really cleaned up his act now. And I spoke to him probably 2 years ago, talked to him about him being on the show. He sounds fantastic. He's happy. But he didn't really want to, get into talking about this show's a lot, telling old stories and stuff. And if we're going to have him on, some of the old stories are going to come up, and that's the past for him. Not embarrassed by it. It's just the past, and really didn't want to get on and talk about it. So, and I totally respect that. He's, like I said, talking to him was, I didn't know him all that well. I was just coming in when he was leaving New York, but sounded fantastic. And he worked hard on himself to make himself better. So love it. I'd ask him again if he wanted just to show him and I, and the rules being that we're not talking about the past, just talk about what he's doing now, and it'd be, it'd be fun to have him on. Any thoughts on Chars? I would love to. I think that'd be a fantastic move for them. And you know what? He can still play. He keeps himself in great shape. Is he as fast? Well, you know what? I was going to say, is he as fast? But he really wasn't ever that fast to start with. The reason I'd like to have him on the team is just more in the locker room. I mean, they've got it seems like a real team there of hardworking guys. Chris Kreider, the one thing about him, he's a workaholic. He just works on his game, on his fitness and everything. So he's fantastic. But Chara is, to the next level. And I think, listen to him speak. Someone's asked a question one time about hazing or treating rookies a certain way. And he said, listen, if you're on the team, you're on the team. It doesn't matter if you're first year or 21st year. And it was really interesting to see him say that, because there has been a history of hockey, and it's going away now too. Hazing's gone, but they still have the tradition of, the rookie dinner where, the rookies paid for the real expensive dinner and everything, which no big deal. But I just liked his mentality that, because in the past, I think back about the way we were treated as rookies and the way we treated other rookies coming up it's stupid. It didn't do anything to bond the team together. If anything, it drove a wedge between the older guys and the younger guys. It was just part of the history of the game. So, yeah, he's good. He'd be a class guy to have on the team. There's a good. Oh, IRL, right. Sarah Palin. That would be funny to have her on the show. Oh, God. Have her and Ron Duguay. Yeah. Lucy Dever want to be good, Danny? Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I'd love to get Proby on. Yeah. Proby. He's, I'll tell you, he's an enthusiastic guy. I give him a lot of credit too, because he really looks at the Survivor, which rightfully so. He's done it for 20 years now. It's like his baby, right? So when you're talking to him as a person, great guy, it's like anybody else, but he gets in an interview talking about Survivor, man. He's into it. Yeah. Adam Sandler, he's a hockey fan. Yeah, Jay. Yeah. Pierre LaRouche. Yes, Michael. So I up here in Pittsburgh during the season and talked to him about being on the show. I didn't have his number. I got it from Craig Patrick. So I have his number. I called him a while ago once and he was not around. And again, it's this time of the year. Like once we get through August here, again, September, more everybody settled back down again. Less vacations in it, so we'll definitely get Pierre on. He's funny. He's a great guy. That French accent and everything, and he's a good storyteller. He came and stayed at my place during training camp one year. We got to be pretty good friends. And fortunately, Pierre, his wife, had a long battle with cancer. Lost her a few years ago. She's a real sweetheart too. Oh yeah, Pierre McGuire. I know a lot of people don't like Pierre. And you can see why, but I think because Pierre's got an opinion all the time, and that's what made him good on TV. You can't go on TV and just be bland and just like everybody. So Pierre had certain things that he liked. He was very vocal about it. And yeah, I like Pierre. I see him. He lives around this area someplace too. I think Stanford or someplace. And I really enjoyed him. He's a good guy. Yeah. Let me see. Are you going to work again any of those guests, or do you need me to be a busy guy? Don't even start. Bill, you're one of those guys that you do one small thing and it's like the rest of your life. It's like, oh, I did it. It's all me. It's all about it. I don't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. Let me see here. Don Cherry. Oh, nice one. That would be fantastic. Wouldn't it? That'd be good. I don't know the F-bomb. So, no, he's been on TV enough to know how to control himself, but he has getting older. Let me see. Were you a Brown Blues when they pulled out of the oath? Yes. Wow, that's interesting. You remember that, Murray. So approximately 1974, I think it was. So I was 15. The Bramley Blues had just gotten started. So I was like a local kid. So, I mean, I think that's basically why I was on the team. I wasn't playing a whole lot. I wasn't playing all the games. I was officially part of the team, but I was still playing on a midget team. And so Bramley Blues are a junior B team in Ontario. And they were playing against Hamilton for the Ontario Championship. And they had a big brawl. I was not at the game. They had a big brawl. And I guess they had a death threat against the bus. Somebody called in and said they're going to plant a bomb on the bus. So our coach was Rick Hay, tremendous guy, really cared about us a lot. He pulled the team out of the finals, and Hamilton ended up winning. They then did a long study on violence in hockey. And this Roy McMurtry, I believe was a lawyer, came in and interviewed all of us. I had to go in and get interviewed. And it became a big thing in Canada. I mean, not just the series, but the whole violence in hockey in Canada. And they really did a big piece on it. And I don't know how much it changed because it was still pretty violent. It's fine. It's not like that anymore. But that's interesting. You remember that, though. The next year, we actually came back and played against Oakville and won the All-Ontario Junior B Championship. So that was really great. Rick Hay was a fantastic guy. I believe we've lost him now. He's that Monahan that just got traded to Montreal. Rick Hay is his grandfather or somehow related. Terrible, I don't remember that. But Rick Hay and his wife were fantastic. So he coached the team. I did a lot of things, like he would take us on trips and weekend trips to go down into like the Cornell University and places like that to expose us to them and have them see us play. Guys were getting scholarships and everything there. I get offered to go to Brown until I saw my grades, and that did not go well. But so Rick Hay, that year we were in the All-Ontario Junior Championship. We were down 3-1 in the finals and came back. It's 3-3. We're going into Oakville at the end of the second period. I think we were down 4-2. And Rick Hay came in with a bag of cash. And he said he and his wife were planning on building an extension on the house. They're going to take the money from that and give that money to us, the team, and the parents, and then put in some more money. And the deal was that if we won that game, again, we're down 4-2 going to third period. It's in the other team's building. If we won the game, we go on an all-expense trade trip to Fort Lauderdale. So you got all these guys that are from 16 to 20 years old with that kind of bait dangling in front of us. And we went out and won the game 8-4 and went down and so we got back. It was quite a party, to say the least. And I saw some things I'd never seen before as a young farm boy. And so we got back. We had another party when we got back, and all the parents were there and everything. And I guess some of the guys in the team were telling my father some of the things that happened down there. My father comes over to me after a few beverages and, "Son, I heard you grew up down there." Yes, Dad? I did. Yeah. Here he is. Thanks, Murray. I knew you'd know that. I should have asked you. Sean is Rick Hay's grandson. Sean Monahan just got traded as Rick Hay's grandson. That's right. And Rick has passed away, right? I'm pretty sure he has. I mean, yeah. Ulf Nielsen would be a great guy to have on the show as well. Yeah, really good. Colton Orr. Yeah, I can get Colton Orr. We're buddies. Yeah. Rob McClanahan. Sure. Oh, Robert Picard. Actually, I've met Robert Picard. Well, I should say that. We played against each other after the incident where I knocked him out at center ice. And he was, back in those days, it was, you'd say it, but it's kind of barbaric. So that it wasn't like guys hated each other after that stuff happened because everybody was doing everybody else. So, some female hockey players. I'll tell you what. You know what you get on? This one girl on the high school hockey team, she was hilarious. Peyton, can't remember her last name. So Czechoslovakian name, Peyton something, Cermak or something like that. But she had a fantastic sense of humor. She was the one we were in practice, and I was getting ready to play in that alumni game against the Islanders, and we were short some players in practice. So I was jumping in and doing the drills. And, my skating's not exactly where it was. And she yells out from the bench. She goes, Coach Laidlaw, if you could play in the NHL, I can play in the NHL too. And she's got a great sense of humor. There's another time I used a wooden stick, and it was one of the girls were fooling around. She was pretending she's trying to break my stick. And Peyton starts yelling, "Don't break that stick. It's an antique. We'll never find another one." Oh, she's pretty funny. So she'd be funny to have on the show. I hope she would act like she acts in practice in games. Great work ethic, really tremendous player. Paige Cernak. Who's Paige Spurnak? What? But are you just making up names like you made up your name? What? Paige Spurnak. Okay. You tell me who she is and we'll get it done. Oh, Rick's still with us. Oh, good. Rick Kay's still with us. I'm glad you told me that, Murray. Thank you very much. I'm going to try to reach out to him. He played a big role in my life. And I learned a lot looking back at this True Grit Life stuff, looking back at people in my life and how they made a difference in my life. And he was huge at a really important time too. I think he started playing when I was 15, played with him for a couple of seasons. And he was the one I've told the story too, where in practice, breaking out was going to be a key for my game. So breaking out, I had to go back, get the puck, get it out of our zone as quick as possible. And, I was still that, 15-year-old kid, kind of taking it easy out there, taking up Joe Cool. And so we do breakouts like every Wednesday at practice. And after a while, I would get sick to my stomach when I knew we were going to do breakouts because it seemed like he yelled at me the whole time we were doing breakouts because they skate hard, Laidlaw, get back there. You look around, look over your shoulders, head on a swivel, all this stuff. And it became, I didn't want to get yelled at anymore. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew this was going to be a big part of my game. And I needed to get it done properly. And he's going to make sure, like, he cared about me. I didn't get that at first. I didn't understand why he was yelling at me all the time. I just knew he was yelling at me, and I didn't want to get yelled at anymore. So it made me work harder to do it, and it became, a big part of my career. As a defenseman, it's huge. You get back, make sure you know where your outlet pass is. Get the puck as quickly as possible and move it as quickly as possible. Get the pass on the tape. And he would yell those things at me, and seriously, I get sick. I feel like I was getting sick to my stomach. He'd yell at me so much. But I'll tell you what, if he didn't do that, I mean, listen, we may have picked up that skill anyways. Yeah, maybe. But he made sure that I picked it up and really helped me a lot. He was a good man. And that's one example. He's just one of those guys in your life that came around at the right time. It wasn't just me. He cared about all the guys. But, he just and I think, he saw that I had a potential to do something with the game. So he pushed me. A great guy. But again, he wasn't, it was old school. Apparently he was supposed to be a pretty good player and hurt his knee. So he really wanted to make sure he'd been through it himself. So we wanted to make sure we all got the chance. He didn't have a son player in anything. He was fantastic. Yeah. That's a good one, Susan. Yeah. The keeper of the cup, Phil Pritchard. Yes. Yeah. I could give Phil a call. That'd be fun. Some of the stories he'd have would be fantastic. Yeah. Rick is a good man. He taught me a lot about it. Yeah. Good job. Thank you, Murray. Yep. Really good man. He's one of those guys. There's a lot of, like that Rich Gabrudi I have on Thursday mornings now. I know I say it all the time, but it's interesting because I do. Whenever I run into a young guy that he's coached, they don't talk about the hockey at all. They talk about the difference they made as a person. And I think that's, again, I'm learning so much, from having people like Jackie and Kathleen on, talking about the subconscious mind and how important it is from 0 to 8 years old. Sometimes they think even in the womb, like the last trimester, like how much people develop then, the things they hear, the things that happen to them, that's really forms who they are. So, use sports, for example, you get a coach at a young age of these players being a positive influence on them, showing them they can do things, they can fight through things. It really makes a difference. And conversely, if you get a coach that's negative and making the kids feel terrible about themselves, it really helps to shape who they are. Can you change things? Yeah, but Joey Kosher, yes, that'd be good. Where he tells us about Keenan and Probert. Keenan is one of those guys. I'll tell you, we played in the outdoor alumni game down in Philly. I keep forgetting, it was 7 or 8 years ago, and he was coaching the alumni team. It's an alumni game, and we had a lot of guys on the bench, and I had been playing a lot. So in between the second and third period, I went in, and Mike Richter was standing right there talking to him, and I just said, "Hey, Mike, listen, I played a lot. If you want to get some of the other guys in the game, it's fine with me." And he made some comment to me like, "Don't tell me who to play. I'll decide who plays on this team." And it was an alumni game, so I told him F off, walked out, and it was enjoyable. He's one of those guys I never really like. The Mike Babcocks, Ken Hitchcocks, Mike Keenan, play all these stupid games, mind games. It's not necessary. People say, "Well, they won." Yeah, they won. That doesn't mean they weren't good coaches. They won because they had good players and they're good coaches. It's just all these stupid extra games that they tried to play. They want to make it look like they were these mad scientists that knew all that, had the secret potion to win. So No need for those guys. Jillian Brown, yes. Again, I spoke to her. Well, she's been a few months now, but she'd been through a tough time. Again, I talked to this before. She had a friend who I think committed suicide, and then her boyfriend had got hurt in a motorcycle accident too. So I haven't talked to her in a while. I'll reach out to her again. She was fantastic. Yeah. She was very insightful too, right? Like she had a lot of really knowledgeable about, like she obviously suffered from PTSD and had a camp there to help other people out. Robbie Ftorek. Good question, Danny. Thank you. One of my all-time favorite people. Did you like Robbie better as a player or as a coach? Exactly the same, because he was exactly the same both ways. He wasn't one of those guys that changed who he was from being a coach, from a player to a coach. And really, I don't know of anybody else that's really ever been like that. Robbie played with Robbie didn't even have to have a coach when he played. He was total discipline. Like I really learned about discipline. Like I believe now, like discipline is freedom. It really helps you in all parts of your life. So I'm way more disciplined now than I've ever been. But Robbie Ftorek was a guy, like when he first came in, I was like, holy smoke, this guy. Like if he had an M&M and something, that was like a big breakthrough for his diet. He was told he'd get down and start stretching. We were like, what is this? Like, what's the guy doing? He's on the floor, like all those contusions or something. So he was fantastic. And then when he became a coach, he was made to coach a guy like me. He wasn't made to coach a guy like Gretz. Like Robbie was all about, again, discipline and rules. Saying you're going to do things, that's what you don't improvise, because and I mean, this is a total compliment to him. He wasn't that talented as a player. He was small. He just wouldn't back down from anybody, wouldn't be outworked, always competed hard. He got a lot out of his career. He was a guy that looked back and go, wow, he really got a lot out of his career. But he also knew, like when he was coaching, he was going to coach his way. And when Wayne came along, and it wasn't Wayne's fault either. Wayne, it wasn't like they hated each other. That I think is more, that to my knowledge anyways, it's Robbie had his way of doing it. He said to me one time, he says, Tom, you're going to get fired anyways as a coach. You might as well coach your way. And then you'll be able to look in the mirror when it's all done. And he did that. And, he may have coached longer had Wayne not got there. It's just two different styles. Like I said, I don't blame either one of them. In fact, I admire both of them. Wayne knew what made him successful. Robbie knew what made him successful in life. Like I really look at Robbie now, like I said, like all this True Grit Life stuff that I do, that he's one of those guys that taught me a lot of lessons that I look back on now. Maybe didn't understand them at the time, but I look back at them now and realize, man, he was crucial. Like I talked about that Rick Cade before. Robbie Ftorek was one of those guys that came into my life at certain times, and as a player and as a coach, he was fantastic to me. I was one of his guys. I played the way he wanted the game to be played, and and that's what it works. The same thing with Herbie, right? I also had other guys, Ted Sater at the end didn't like me. When I got to LA, Tom Webster was coaching. We didn't hit it off. It's amazing how that's just the way it works. If you're a superstar player, it doesn't matter who's coaching you. But if you're a role player like I was, then fitting into a coach's system, I fit into Robbie Ftorek's system. I fit into Herb Brooks' system. And I actually, at start with Ted Sater, I fit into his system too. Let me see. Dan Cloutier, he'd be interesting. I don't know if I ever met Dan Cloutier. Robbie was a good player. Yeah. WHA had that big moon helmet he had too. Big melon on him. Great family guy. Mike Myers would be funny to have on. Yeah. Let's see here. Do you think that Sater hurt guys' careers? Yes, I do. And again, that's our own fault as players if that happens. Like I've learned that now, but when you're playing at the time, you get so caught up in, okay, he's screwing me over or whatever, or he's not playing me enough. The answer should be, okay, I don't like what he's doing, but I'm just going to work harder. So he's got no choice but to play me, or I'm just going to play better. I'm going to be in better shape. But again, those coaches to me, and I put him in that category, he'd like to play those mind games. Like we joke around, we tell a story about how we were in Pittsburgh one night and we played bad. And then we were coming home. We weren't supposed to practice the next day. And he said, okay, we're all going to practice. And then that's what Bob Brook and myself and Gresh were all the captains. And so he lines the whole team up on the red line and he has the three of us to skate. So we down and back. You guys didn't pass enough last night. Down and back. You guys didn't hit enough last night. Down and back. So this goes on for half an hour, 45 minutes or something. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to make the rest of the team feel guilty that they played bad because here's these three captains that are doing all the skating. But this is NHL hockey players. The guys didn't care. They were laughing at us. So we had around and had a few beers before, so they lost sweating out the beers. So And I told it to this Ramo Helminen was this total sweetheart of a guy. Finnish or Swedish, I can't remember which he was, but really like a good little player and a great teammate, kind of like that gentle soul kind of thing. He comes up to me after, and his English was not good. He goes, "Tommy, why only you three skate?" Like he didn't understand at all what was going on. So like this, that's what I mean. Like these kind of little mind games that these some coaches play. Some of them like the Rod Brindamores, those kind of guys, Gerard Gallant, it's awful. I keep forgetting Berube that's in St. Louis. Those kind of guys, they don't play the mind games. It's direct. If you're not working hard enough, you're not playing. If you're not doing what I want you to do, you're not playing. There's no game plan. You don't like there's stories about the Mike Babcock, what he did with Marner, where he had him rate the character of the players on the team or something like that. And then he went to the team and told them that, like to try to get Martin to look bad. Like it's just, they do stuff like that to, like some of the stories I heard about Ken Hitchcock and stuff. I had Brian Berard that played for him. And it's like the stuff they say that's like, these are grown men playing, you're a grown man coaching. And some of the things these coaches in the past, I don't think it goes on as much anymore. I mean, maybe a coach loses his temper. But I think much more now, it's a new age and it's more be direct. Just tell them what you want. These guys have played games and everything like that. Brian Leach would be fantastic to have on too. Yeah, he's a good guy. We get along well. Like I give him a hard time about, he wore number 2 and his number's retired. We did an event, Skate with the Greats at Chelsea Piers. So I was the MC for a couple of years, and I get to introduce everybody, bring them up on stage. And so I introduced him, and I said something, I can't remember what it was, typically smart ass. And he goes, be careful, I'll be taking that number 2 away from you or something like that. He's pretty good. He's got a good sense of humor. Very good. And again, at that outdoor alumni game, that's the first time I really met him. And we had a dinner the night before, several beverages. And we were sitting around, him and I, aggressive, telling old stories. And he's actually a very funny guy. Yeah. Let me see. Favorite late night snack? Oh, Jack. Hummus with carrots and cucumbers. I've gotten, my boys came over, looked into my refrigerator, my cabinet, and goes, "There's nothing unhealthy in here." So, and the worst was I had a leftover bottle of ketchup in the bottom of the fridge there. And I said, "That's the worst thing I had." Yeah, there's not much junk food. There's no junk food in the house. I do have, I should say, I've got a jar of mixed nuts and stuff like that. But that's been sitting in there a long time. We even, if we have like to mix with our tequila now, we fresh squeeze our grapefruits and limes, and make our own, put a little agave in there. So all healthy, not as much sugar. Cake at the beach. Neil Smith. Neil Smith's a good guy. I wonder if he'd tell old stories. There's a lot of stuff that happened, right? You're going to be a general manager. I was talking about him with somebody the other day where he had taken over with the Islanders. It was him and Teddy Nolan, or in Pat LaFontaine, I think, too. It didn't last long, too. They only lasted like a couple of weeks or something. Let me see here. Dougie, any question you have, you ask it, and I'll answer it immediately, all right? Especially if Ira's the other person to choose between you and Ira. If you're stuck on an island in the South Pacific with one player, who would that be? One NHL player, current or former? Oh, man. Interesting. Stuck on an island. Wow. That'd be very, so okay. I go with a guy like a Dean Kennedy. I played with Dean Kennedy in Los Angeles. Big farm boy. I just got the impression that he could survive, like he out there killing a deer with his bare hands or something like that. So as far as being out there with somebody that, you could help provide with and build fires and all that kinds of stuff, it could be a guy like him that comes to mind. But being out there with a fun guy that you had to be able to get along with. I can't say Gresh. Can't say that. Him listen to that, he'll think I like him or something like that. Jeez. Wow, there's a lot. Well, like a guy like a Mel. I hate to say it, but I actually like Mel. I actually respect Mel too. You know that? Like, this is terrible. He's going through this tough time with a dog, but it just shows how big a heart he is. Like, it's really. I haven't spoken to him. I just exchanged emails, but it isn't something he's just taken lightly. That's why he didn't come on the show. So, yes. Mel. I think I say nice things about Mel more because I pick on him so much too. So I feel like I can counteract it. Matteau would be nice. Yes, he's a fun guy. I've gotten to know Stefan Matteau pretty good. We've done a few events together. Good sense of humor. Kind of quiet, a little bit more quiet, but it's again very funny. Yeah. Glenn Saylor would be good to have on, Jay. Yes. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Ira knows what he's doing here. No way I'm saying you, Ira. If you're stuck on the island with one of your audience, who would it not be? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh God. Ira, I can't do it. I can't say that to you. It's without question. It's that Billy Contradidiac or whatever it is. His name is. He's just a hater. It's like I can't do anything right. He's constantly picking on me. Not right. I love Mel. We chat often. Oh, that's good, George. All right. Favorite all-time movie. Oh, wow. Well, it'd be. I don't know if I could pick one. It's got to be a John Wayne movie. The Shootist is good. Sons of Kitty. No, not Sons of Kitty. That sounds good. The Shootist. The Searchers is very good. Oh, Searchers is a classic movie, John Wayne movie. The Cowboys. So one of those three movies. I also like, Miracle, obviously. What's funny? A football movie I used to love was the Brian song, Brian Piccolo and Gail Sayers, where Brian Piccolo got cancer. When I was younger, I thought that was the best movie ever. I watched it recently again. I don't know if you guys are ever like this, but I watched it recently again, and it was like, I don't like it. It's not that good. Maybe time's gone by, but apparently On the Waterfront, True Grit. Oh yeah, yes, True Grit's good. Very good movie. That is kind of where the True Grit life came from. The gentleman I'm writing the book with, once we got to know each other going through the book writing process, he said, "Man, it's just like John Wayne stuff. It's like what True Grit life." That kind of stuck by me. Slapshot's good. The Longest Day, that was good. Yeah, definitely. Is Empathy a movie? Susan, is that a movie? George McPhee. George, yeah, I'd love to have George on. And I always am careful. So Kevin Allen and I do our show. I pick on Vegas Golden Knights right now, and I try to make sure I explain. I have tremendous respect for George and what George has done in his career. He did in Washington there. He put the bulk of that team together. They ultimately won the Stanley Cup when Brian McClellan took over. So when I criticize Vegas, I try to say, because when George was in charge running the team and he was general manager, the team was totally different. The vision of the team, it seemed like. Now, a lot of people tell me that it's the owner that's really getting involved there too. So, Empathy for Brian Piccolo. Yes, I see, Susan. Yes, that's great. The story was a great story. And if you guys are familiar with it, Gail Sayers was the big star coming into the Chicago Bears his rookie year, and at the same time, Brian Piccolo was coming in. And Brian was he got a Wake Forest, was a smaller running back, and didn't have the big name or whatever. And again, Sayers was black, Piccolo was white. There was a lot of people didn't get along that well with race issues and everything. So Piccolo and Sayers befriended each other, got to be very close friends, but also competing for jobs and everything to play. I think ultimately Piccolo was a fullback and Gail Sayers was a halfback, or I don't know what exactly, but they ended up both playing together. And Gail Sayers tore his knee up one time. Brian Piccolo went out of his way, made sure that he rehabbed properly, really supported him and everything. And then Brian Piccolo started to get sick and got cancer. It was a very emotional movie at the end. And again, like I said, I remember getting all teary-eyed with it and everything. And it just didn't seem like the movie was as good. But the story still remained the same. It was a true story. It's a good movie. Brian's song's a classic. Thank you. Yes, it did make you cry too, right, Jack? Yeah, it did make me cry, and I watched it several times, and I'd always get teary-eyed watching it. I knew it was coming, but it's the whole the way they built up the relationship between the two of them. And Gail Sayers was very quiet. He got up and made a speech at some dinner someplace, kind of honoring Brian Piccolo, and he teared up during this thing. So it was pretty good. Yeah. I did here's an interesting one. Theoren Fleury. So I did an event up in Ridgeville, Connecticut. He was in. So obviously his story is public, so I don't mind talking about it. He'd been sexually abused by a same junior coach that sexually abused client I represented, Sheldon Kennedy. And he's done a lot of talking about it now. So he was at this event. He was interviewed by some guy. He's on CBS News or something. I can't remember who he was. So they had Colton Orr and I come in kind of, we were the pre-entertainment. And so I knew Theron pretty well, but we got to talk that night and everything. Very interesting guy, very well spoken. He's a real advocate now, trying to help other people. So he'd be a good guest. Slowly, Graham James. Yeah. So this was the coach that abused the player and many other players. Graham James. It's awful to say this, and I had this conversation with somebody else, but these predators, and they are predators, are typically very intelligent men too, men or women, because they know who to pick, how to do it. Graham James had won Coach of the Year in the Canadian Hockey League. He's a well-respected guy. He had built this reputation of helping these young players. But what he was really doing was taking these players, bringing them into his home, and abusing them, and then so they would go out and act out, drugs or alcohol and everything. And he made it look like he'd bring them back in, abuse them again. He made it look like he was trying to help these kids. He's coaching in Swift Current, I believe. Yes. Yeah. And the people in Swift Current really respected him a lot, small little town. And when it all came out, when the truth came out, there's a lot of people in Swift Current that I talked to who were just devastated because they felt like they were obviously duped, but they also played a role in it because they didn't see it happening. So it was a bad story. And the sad thing is too, we had that case with Chicago where the coach abused some players there too, and it became a big issue. It was a National Hockey League, so it became a big deal. And now it's kind of fallen off the radar. And I understand from the league standpoint, you don't want to constantly be pounding away at this, but the reality is this abuse still goes on all the time, and we don't do anything about it. I don't do anything about it. I don't do as much as I should. I hope I do some things, but I don't do as much as I should. It's kids, it's women, men being abused all the time, and it affects them in some terrible ways. Suicide, alcohol, drugs. Some people don't come out and talk about it for years. A friend of mine, female police officer up in where she is, Waterford, Connecticut, someplace. It took her decades to go and talk about it. And we've had this discussion on our show before where, part of the time is if you're not dealing with the subject, you wonder why didn't the person come out and talk about it earlier? Well, there's a whole host of reasons. I mean, it could be that he doesn't have any support system. They don't have any support system, he or she. Could be because they don't want to talk about it right away. And then as time goes on, time fades away and it's like something triggers it. So they do finally come back and talk about it. So there's a lot of issues why people don't talk about it. And I think it's really important that we support, no matter what you think, you think to yourself, well, why'd you wait 10 years to go and talk about it? That's not our business to figure out why. If they came out and talked about it, then it's our job to support it. Will there be some cases sometimes where somebody might be wrongly accused of doing it? Yes, there will be. There should be some other motive. I think that's a small percentage of the times it happens, but you still can't question the person has been abused. Every time you got to support them. So I feel very highly about that. That's a hot topic. Tom, did you ever have any suspicions? Let me see here. Yes, I did. So I've talked about this before. So when Alan Eagleson would come around and see each team, he would usually bring a player. Typically, it was a guy like a higher end player, like Tony Esposito, the goaltender in Chicago, was coming in, and where I was like, well, what's he coming in for? So we, whenever you'd ask a question, he had a pattern. He knew what he was doing. He's a smart man, Alan Eagleson. He would if I asked a question, he'd go, Tommy, sit down. You scored one goal last year. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say or talk to. He'd say that to us right in front of him, and then everybody else in the room would think, well, I don't want to get embarrassed in front of anybody. So they wouldn't back each other up with saying. So it's probably 1986. Now John Van Beesbroek and I got along fine, but it wasn't like we were real close buddies. But we got together. I got a meeting before Alan Eagleson was coming in. We said, listen, this is enough of this. We got to ask questions. So of course, me with my big mouth, I was nominated to ask the questions. And I can't remember if we talked about it beforehand or if it just happened at the meeting. But to John Van Beesbroek's credit, I got up and asked the questions. I said, I was taking a look at the books. We didn't know what was going on. We wanted to take a look at the books and see learn what was happening with, because Alan Eagleson would just say, well, listen, I'll handle things, guys. Don't worry about it. So I got up, asked the question, and he started into this, Tommy, sit down. He kind of do it like smart ass, like joking around and like that. Beezer stood up to his credit. He says, no, Tom's been nominated as our spokesperson. He's asking the questions, and you're going to give us the answers. And yeah, it was a great moment. Beasley did a great job, and I don't think that had ever happened to Eagleson before, and it really changed. Like he started kissing my rear end every time he saw me after that, and he didn't kiss anybody's rear end. It wasn't because of me; it was more because of Beezer sticking up for me and realizing that okay, these guys are on to me. I don't think that much changed as time went on, but I think I should say that's not true. What did change was the way we conducted ourselves towards him. It was more like we were the bosses, and he was going to do what we told him to do. Eventually got to the point where he got fired. I can't remember if he got put in jail. I can't remember. Obviously, he got put in jail after he was fired, but I couldn't remember if he got fired because the charges come down against him, or whatever. But he was awful. Like he would. So one of the biggest reasons, Bob Goodenow, who came in after he came in after. He did a fantastic job to help the players, no question. I didn't like Bob Goodenow, didn't like the way he conducted himself, but he did a fantastic job for the players. But one of the biggest things so I don't want to take away from what he's done. One of the biggest things that reason the salaries went up was salary disclosure. Alan Eagleson would argue against it. He said, guys, we can't have salary disclosure. Salaries are going to go too high. It's going to ruin the league. Well, meantime, he was going on yacht rides with the owners and everything like that. He was more in their back pocket than he was with us. And so when Bob came in, I think it was like he came in 1990. I think in 92, I believe, is when we had salary disclosure. And think back about it now. We used to argue about it because Eagleson used to want us to not do it. So we would, oh God, we can't do that. We can't hurt the league. It was stupid. One of the best things that ever happened was salary disclosure because then everybody else knew what everybody else was making. There's some guys that knew, but it wasn't a topic in the locker room. Certainly wasn't published someplace. What happened to players? I can't remember how it worked. I think Dave Taylor was making $1 million in LA and Gretzky was making less than $1 million up in Edmonton. So once he saw that, he was like, well, I've got to be more than anybody else. No disrespect to Dave Taylor. He's having a fantastic career, but Wayne was Wayne. And so his salary went up, then everybody else's salary got dragged up and the salary started to decline. So that, Eagleson, yeah, it's total scumbag, yeah. Susan, good question. Who's your favorite athlete from another sport? Without question, Randy White. Randy White played for the Dallas Cowboys. They called him the Manster. He was just relentless, never stopped. He was actually my favorite athlete. I didn't have a favorite hockey player growing up. I admired Bobby Orr and those kind of guys. Larry Robinson was fantastic too. I actually got to play with Larry at the end of his career, into my career as well. But Randy White was, and I just remember he just would never quit. He was vicious out there. Again, call him the Manster. I just think that was so cool. Half man, half monster. So Randy White, without question, yeah. Let me see here. Was the NHL still a B movie in the United States? Why is the NHL? I don't know if I guess B movie is the correct way of saying it. Okay, so obviously there's football, baseball, basketball, right? I think the biggest difference is the TV. So when you go to an NHL game, like anybody that's been to, Madison Square Garden, and watch a Ranger game there, it's just fantastic, right? I think you get hooked on the game. The problem is I don't think it relates as well especially to the average fan on TV. The revenues aren't as high. It's better. The league has done a fantastic job of building the revenues from TV dollars. But again, it's just, I'm a big fan of Boomer Esiason. He's got his radio show in the morning and he likes to talk about hockey all the time. He's a huge Ranger fan. And they constantly are giving him a hard time. Like that Eddie Schizzeri that's got puts all the drops in. He's hilarious. And every time Boomer starts talking about hockey, he puts in the drop. He goes, "Nobody cares about hockey, Boomer. Nobody cares about hockey." So like even those guys who they're in that business, so they know, okay, what do people want to talk about? It's not typically about hockey, unless they're far in the playoffs and they're doing well. It's just, and again, I think it's a TV thing, and it's so many people can just play baseball. Growing up, they can play football. You can go grab a football and throw it around. You can go grab a baseball and a mitt and throw it around a bat. Basketball, you go down to the local park with a basketball. Hockey, you got to have an ice rink, you got to have skates, you got all the stuff to do it. So it's not as accessible to everybody. But the people that obviously get hooked on it are, like the Ranger fans are just diehard fans and die for the team. So, let me see here. And I would rather talk about hockey. Yeah, well, obviously me too. But too bad you guys didn't hire Marvin Millen as center. Yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah, listen, and there's nobody to blame but ourselves. But at the same time, we were all just like my first year's salary in the National Hockey League was $60,000. But to be honest with you, if they told me I had to pay them $60,000 to play in the NHL, I probably would have done that too. It was it was a dream to play in the National Hockey League the way it was supposed to be. There wasn't money being made, so guys didn't dream about making money. It was the dream of playing in the NHL. And I'm not saying the guys are any different now, but part of it is you have to look at it. It's your business. You're setting yourself up, your family up. You've got an opportunity to make millions of dollars. So you have to look at more of a business. Now, that doesn't mean you still they don't like these players today. They still have passion for the game. Like you watch a Ryan Lindgren to play the way he did, and the pain he played through. And I'm using one guy as an example. They still have that same passion. It's just that, a lot of money to be made. So we got, Alan Eagleson and he knew the way we were as players too. Most of us were Canadian old farm boys who just wanted to shut up, drink beer, and play hockey, and he knew that, played on it. And so anything that happened to us was our fault. We didn't, he did it, but we allowed it to happen. So, let me see. So much of hockey happens by the play. Yeah, it's a good point, Susan. You're right. I know, that is the truth. When you're at the game, you see all these little things that are going on. A cheap shot behind the play or something happening. Yeah, and you don't see all that on TV. Yeah. Yes. Well, remember the WHA finished in 79 was your last year. So again, I played. It boosted it something. And remember, it was the star players before, like the Bobby Hulls, those kind of guys. They had to work during the summer. They didn't make enough money to survive from playing in the National Hockey League. So yes, you're right. For those Euro players, and the WHA came in, so that pushed salaries up as well from those guys. But it was ultimately, once the WHA didn't exist any longer, it was. So we went through to the 80s, and so another 12, 13 years before we had salary disclosures. So, but you're right. WHA played a role in that too. So, let me see. Bobby Orr scored his last of the year. I can't think if you know. Oh yeah. Bobby Orr is incredible. If he had not got hurt, or if he'd gotten hurt in this time where they have better surgeries to fix the injuries and stuff, he would have. I think he only played like 8 years or something, right? Yeah. I know if people don't remember, like if you go back and watch some old videos and stuff, he was just. They had a show on, I think it was CBS on Sunday mornings, and it was like an NHL highlight show. I think I've got that correct. It seemed like every week, the last 10 minutes was just Bobby Orr highlights. He was just so different from any other player that played at that point. His ability to carry the puck and score. He's a great competitor. He's tough, humble guy. He was incredible. I guess it wasn't like I didn't like him. I just don't think I felt like I was like him. I was what I was as a player, as a kid. I was the same way in the National Hockey League. And that's why I like that Randy White so much. I just, I think, it's funny, again, during this True Grit Life journey, I didn't ever know really why I liked him that much. I just was attracted and drawn to him. And I realize now more, and realize this writing the book and everything too, where I just understand myself better now and what drove me. I've told the story many times about my father. Scotty Bowman was doing play-by-play or color commentating, and I went crashing the boards, and play-by-play goes, well, that guy's not getting up. And Scotty Bowman goes, oh no, that's Laidlaw. He's getting up. That just, my father was so proud of that. And I realized that's kind of who I had become, and that's the same kind of guy that Randy White was. Just always keep going. And so pretty interesting. Yes. Yeah. Bobby Orr was a fantastic athlete. Yeah. Yeah. He was, he's still a real gentleman now too. Yeah. Like I don't know him that well. When I was in the agent business, he was in the agent business. I call him every once in a while. Treated me fantastic. I guess, former player, but he didn't know me. We never played together. There's no allegiance there or whatever, but would always go out of his way. A nice guy. Yeah. Al Arbour really liked me. It's funny. Yeah. I'd heard, actually my college coach said this when I was leaving college and signing with the Rangers. I guess the Islanders were just, they were all over, but he said to me at one point, he says, well, you're going to play for the Rangers, but the Islanders like you better than the Rangers do. So it's kind of a compliment, I guess. Yeah. But they did all right without me. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, good job, guys. This is fun. I know we want to get the other guys on and have some fun some more, but I think we're all enjoying this. Like I enjoy answering all your questions, and you guys get to ask questions that probably we wouldn't always get to if it's a whole bunch of people on. So if we, I'll just finish off this one question. I think this is a good question here. Any thoughts on Bruce McNall? I was shocked. So Bruce McNall had owned the LA Kings when I was there. He bought the team, I guess, my second year I was there. We used to have the old black and gold jerseys. And he apparently Mr. McNall made all his money from coins, trading coins and everything. Great guy, loved being around. He loved me. I was one of the assistant captains, so we'd go on the road, and he'd hand me like $1,000 or $1,500 after the game in cash. He said, "Tommy, take the boys out for beers," So he was great. He was always flying like certain guys, the key guys on the team back on a private jet. Certain times to get us back earlier, so we were rested and all this. And he traded for Wayne Gretzky, and he was always around. He was just a fantastic guy. He then got arrested for, I think, falsifying loan documents or bank documents or both. And it was a shock to everybody because he really it seemed like a great family man, seemed very successful. So I loved him. I thought he was fantastic. He was great to me. I called him when he got out of prison. I think I don't know, it was like 3 years or something. I can't remember how long he was in prison. He lost his family. The wife divorced him and everything. But you know what? He didn't blame anybody else. He didn't even blame his wife. He wasn't bitter towards anybody. He said, "Tommy, I did it. I got caught up in the whole thing. That's not who I am, but I did it. There's no excuse." It's hard to say I had respect for him, but I do. He made a mistake. He made a series of mistakes. He paid the price. And again, he didn't try to blame anybody else. He didn't have, he wasn't bitter toward, like I said, wasn't bitter. When I talked to him, wasn't bitter towards his family or anything. So, again, on one side, you're like, Bruce, what'd you do? But like, he didn't murder anybody. He didn't hurt anybody else. It was all a financial thing. And again, it doesn't make it right. But yeah, he was good. I know there's a passage. I didn't see this. Acknowledge the passing of Janine's dad. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. The Janine that we've had on the show? I'm very sorry. If that is, it doesn't matter which Janine it is, whichever Janine it is, but if that's the Janine, I'm very sorry. Sorry to hear that. It's very sad whenever you lose a family member. So, all right, guys, we've got a long time here with one big mouth guy talking all the time. So, again, seems like we're fine with this, but we'll get, like I said, once we get into September, everybody's done with their vacationing and everything. So we'll get to the Pierre LaRouches, Mike Rogers, and all those other guys. It'd be fun to hear some of the old stories. And hopefully our buddy Mel is doing okay. Again, in case somebody missed it, if you want to reach out to Mel, let him know. He lost his dog yesterday. The neighbor's dog attacked the dog and his dog, and they had to put him down. So it just shows. Again, Mel puts on that big tough guy act, and he is a tough man, but he's got a huge heart too. So he was really, I don't think he was kind of down about the dog and everything. So, so it was Janine Marie. So again, Janine, I'm sorry to hear about your father. And we will see everybody next week. Everybody have a great weekend.